Hey guys, what's up? It's Collegio. Today I'm going to talk about Donald Trump, Iran, Israel. What is going on in the president's mind? Is this the end of the Make America Great Again movement, or is it something else entirely? I'm going to take an ultra-realist view of where I think the president's mind is on this. By the way, this is an interesting topic because if you look at the history of foreign policy over the last 20 years, you'll see that Republicans have made a huge 180, all right? 20 years ago, President Bush in the 2005 inauguration talked about bringing democracy to the world. And 20 years later, Republicans go and nominate someone who is arguably the most isolationist of the candidates in the primary pack, which is Donald Trump. All right. What's going on here? Well, what's interesting about it is that Republicans have actually shifted their foreign policy views quite a bit over the last 20 years, 50 years, 100 years. It's remarkable, and it happens more often than you think. So I want to give a little bit of history here because I think it's instructive. We like to think of ideologies as being fixed, but they're not. They're far more often more flexible than you might think. If you go back to the United States foreign policy in the 19th century, one of the things that George Washington had said in the end of the 18th century was that we were blessed by the Atlantic Ocean. It would keep us out of foreign entanglements in Europe, right? It was a blessing to not have to get involved in European wars. But by the late 1890s, the United States had become so powerful economically, it was beginning to get powerful from an international standpoint. And if you look at what happened in the presidency of William McKinley in 1896, from 1896 to 1900, the United States began to flex internationally. We formed the Panama Canal Zone, all right? We made the deal to suddenly be the arbiter of shipping across the two oceans, right? Spanish-American War, 1898, suddenly we won a war that basically ended Spain's presence in the Western Hemisphere. It gave the United States territories of Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Marianas Islands, as well as the Philippines, all the way on the other side of the earth, okay? As well as Cuba as a protectorate. President Theodore Roosevelt in the early 1900s was out in the world negotiating the end of wars between the Russians and the Japanese, okay? So that was the beginning of a huge push, especially within the Republican Party, to be interventionist minded, all right? To be leading the world. Now, in the lead up to World War I, there was a split. There wasn't a lot of certainty that we should be getting involved in European entanglements. Of course, once we got involved in the war, there was a unity behind it. But by President Warren Harding's election in 1920, there was this refrain for a return to normalcy. And what that meant was getting out of the world's affairs, getting back to what was best in America. And the United States in the 20s and 30s, led by Republicans like Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, were de facto isolationists. They were pushing for a much more restrained foreign policy in the world. That all ended on December 7, 1941 with Pearl Harbor. There was a lot of national unity to fight a two-front war, but after World War II,